After the Kashmir Files, the Kerala story, the movie Razakar, a silent genocide of Hyderabad, seems to be the next controversial movie. Razakar, produced by a BJP leader, Kuddur Narayan Reddy, is set to release on March 1st, 2024, a few weeks before the Lok Sabha elections. The movie was earlier supposed to be released in 2023 before the Telangana elections. The then ruling BRS government and opposition BJP were at war of words over the previous Razakar teaser. Congress and BRS criticized the teaser and stated that it was a part of BJP's propaganda. However, in February 2024, a new teaser of the movie has been released. The movie claims to bring out the historical realities of Nizam's rule in Telangana just before and after Indian independence. It purportedly shows the atrocities committed by Razakars on Hindus. As per the teaser, the Nizam wanted to establish Hyderabad as an independent Islamic state and he silently committed genocide on the state's Hindu people. But is that what happened in history? Who are Razakars? Does this movie really bring out the history it claims to be? Let us know about the true history with renowned historian Dr. Mohammad Safiullah, who walks us through the history of Hyderabad with exclusive pictures clicked by Jack Burns of Razakars and Hyderabad of that time. Thank you so much, sir, firstly, for doing this interview with us. And as a historian now, there is a lot of controversy that's coming up with the Razakar movie in Telangana. So, firstly, we want to know what do you think about the revised trailer that came out around 3-4 days ago?
Ma'am, you have to understand the movie being produced in a certain context. See, this is basically, as you are aware, the term Razakar is for a volunteer. But here it is being shown as a sort of a demon or a terrorist or something like that,
Right.
which is not the case. And can I use a phrase in Urdu?
Yeah, sure, sir. But just translate it also for our audience.
Yeah.
But you can definitely use it.
See, they are trying to depict, I'll come to that Urdu part later, they are trying to depict the events of Hyderabad state which as they happened in September, October 1948, more than 75 years ago. So now I'm coming to that Urdu saying, Ladai ke baad ghusa yaad aaya. So you understand my point is, after the fight, they remember the punch now.
Yeah.
What is the logic behind releasing a movie of certain events which may have been some unfortunate ugly moments in history of Hyderabad which happened over 75 years ago? What is the point in breaking the topic now, taking up the topic right now? I see, as you rightly, when you ask the question about what is your opinion about Razakar movie. Last year or I think in 2022 we had the Kashmir Files, then we had the Kerala story. So I see that in that similar sequence, and the ultimate aim is to polarize, nothing else. I was really shocked to see the 3-minute. I went on YouTube
the new
when
trailer, yeah.
No, I've seen a number of trailers. I think there's a introduction by Bollywood actress Kangana Ranawat or whoever it may be.
Yes.
I was actually, really laughing it out because it's nothing to do with history. It's like, Bollywood masala pot boiler sort of, to basically to polarize. As simple as that.
So, sir, since you mentioned that the Razakar movie is not depicting the true history that happened, as a historian, first, can you just explain in brief what was Razakars, what was their involvement during the merger of Hyderabad with India, and the whole history that seems to be happening in the trailer? If you could just explain us what it was, firstly.
Believe me, that 3 minutes of trailer is nothing to do with actually what the sequence of events that happened in September, October 1948, which the director or the producers of the movie are trying to portray. You have to understand, the movie in the larger context, the term Razakar is basically, as I said earlier, it's the term used for a volunteer. Razakar is a volunteer. And this volunteer was from the political party called the Majlis Ittihad Hyderabad, MIH. Later on, the modern form is the All India MIM. You also have to understand the context in which these political parties were formed. As when I spoke to you yesterday, I was talking about the nationalist and revivalist movements that happened in Europe and other parts of the world. For example, the revivalist movement in Turkey, which led to the fall of the Ottoman Empire, the rise of the fascist party in Italy, the rise of the Nazi party in Germany, and similarly, the rise of the formation of the RSS in 1925, and Majlis came into being in 1927. The Razakars, what we are talking about, they actively came into being somewhere in the late 40s only. Their activities, as we have documented, as serious historians, we have documented their activities between 1945 and 48. And most of it, which is shown in the movie or in the other, promos or any of the Government of India propaganda material which has been published till now, have gone out to demonize the Razakar, saying that they were bloodthirsty, they never had any, care for the rule of law and anything like that. And they were basically like, trigger happy sort of people, and they killed who were this thing. And also one point that the trailer was trying to convey was the mass conversions, or the Razakars forced Hindus to convert to Islam, which is not true at all. Which is not true at all.
So can you tell us what is true and what you found in your studies? Because you've done extensive work in finding out about Razakars. If you could tell us some anecdotes or what you found out in your studies.
Ma'am, there may have been some unhappy or untoward incident. They may have happened. We are not denying the fact that it's possible that one or two, but they have been blown out of proportion. How does the Government of India justify the massacre of nearly 40,000 people, essentially Muslims, in Hyderabad state, when the Indian Army entered Hyderabad in between 3rd September and 18th September 1948? There is absolutely no mention of that massacre. And here the movie also says some silent massacre and all. Basically it's out to play with the people's sentiments. And as you know very well, in April we are going to have the general elections. And they're basically they're going to influence they're trying to influence the voters, as simple as that. And I think the peace-loving people of Telangana will definitely not fall in this trap of propaganda trap. And then they're peace-loving people, and both the communities, the Hindu and Muslim communities, have existed in Hyderabad and Telangana for more than 1,000 years. So there's no reason they should not continue to do so, in spite of such provocative movies.
Also, sir, can you tell us about the Razakars? If you could, you already mentioned how they started and what does Razakar mean. But if you could
tell us... you have to understand, as I said earlier, the Majlis came into being in 1927. They were only limited to cultural activities. They are not a political party. They were only a political party in the late 40s. And when the British started talking about independence of India, you also have to understand there were about 560 odd princely states, and Hyderabad was the biggest, most powerful, and the richest of all the princely states. So to protect the rights of Hyderabad, the Razakars, started mobilizing people, and under the leadership of a gentleman called Qasim, who was a great orator. They mobilized people to protect the state. They wanted to remain independent. What is the harm in remaining independent? If you read the Indian Independence Act 1947 carefully, there are 3 clauses.
Wanted to remain independent.
If the state wanted to remain independent, that is the last clause. First clause would be geographically, if it is say nearer to Pakistan, they could join Pakistan. If they are part of India, they could join India, or they could remain independent. Hyderabad being a huge state with its own currency, its own postal system, its own railways, its own railway. We had an airways in 1932, And even the rivers had waterways also. A very developed state with postal system, currency, coinage, everything, a modern, very
Yes.
modern state. If they wanted to remain independent, why not? But that was not the fashion of the day, because democracy was the fashion of the day, and Sardar Patel wanted and I have been uh, I have collected, I think, about almost 300 plus references on the military invasion of Hyderabad state. All the books that have been published on this, I have got a copy, either a hard copy or a PDF file or things like that. Nowhere can we justify the invasion of Hyderabad state by nearly 40,000 people. Who asked the government of India to invade Hyderabad, a peaceful state?
Right.
All these questions remain unanswered.
That's right.
And as I said, I mean, you wanted me to throw some light on the Razakars.
Yeah.
See, this political party, or the party which came into being, was mostly to do with culture and protection of maybe some religious rights and rights of the Muslims of Hyderabad state. But it only turned militant, or probably, keeping in mind to protect the interest of the Hyderabad state, because the British were giving independence to India, and they wanted to have Hyderabad as an independent state. What is the harm? I mean, it was not to the liking of Sardar Patel or Jawaharlal Nehru or the other powers. They could have negotiated. Instead of negotiating, they sent a force of 40,000 troops and then annexed Hyderabad. And they waited for nearly 17. They waited for another nearly 20 years to annex Goa, somewhere in 1960s.
Yeah.
Why the delay? If Sardar Patel was so keen on, integrating all the princely states into Indian Union, why did they wait till the mid-1960s to annex Goa?
That's an important question. Also, so why I ask about Razakar so particularly is because even in history, even in school, we were taught, like when we learn about the independence and how the merger of states happened, we have been learning that Junagadh, Kashmir, and Hyderabad were the three states that wanted to remain independent, and Kashmir was already in conflict. Like that has completely different story. But when it comes to Hyderabad, I think at least when I was in school, it was clearly, there was a statement that Razakars were creating violence there, they were raping women, and that's when Indian Army stepped in. That's the narrative.
Ma'am, as I said earlier, I have done extensive research on this subject. Between July 1947 and August 1948, the government of India came up with a white paper, which was published somewhere in August 1948, listing out a sequence of about 300 events that happened, 300 major events that happened all across Hyderabad state to justify the armed invasion. And, the other part was that when the Indian Army invaded Hyderabad state and annexed Hyderabad state, the number of Razakars were killed, lot of them were arrested, and people who were involved in any sort of criminal activity or any other unlawful activity were punished. Even the so-called leader of the Razakars, the Qasim Razvi, he was given a major prison sentence, and it was only in the mid-1950s, on his special request, he is allowed to go to Pakistan. We are talking of the law of the land taking its due course. See, after the military invasion, the Razakars whoever were involved in any major cases, there were cases being filed on them, and action was taken as per law.
Also, so we spoke about Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel's stance. So now, in the trailer, we clearly see that he comes nearly in the end and he says that मैं हैदराबाद को कश्मीर नहीं बनने दूंगा, दूसरा कश्मीर नहीं बनने दूंगा. Very powerful lines he gives there. So, can you tell us what was Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel's stance in the merger of Hyderabad with the Union, and considering the geopolitics of that time? You also spoke about how the world politics also changed the moment over here, and also keeping in mind that
the party which the background in which the Razakars came into being was influenced by the events which are happening in the world in the early 1920s. They are not isolated from the outside world. They were in touch with the people, and they were influenced by these revivalist and nationalist movements. As I said earlier, the Nazi party, the fascist party, revivalist movement in Turkey, which led to the fall of the Ottoman Empire, and also the formation of the RSS in India in 1925. Majlis was formed, MIH, which was called Majlis Ittihad Hyderabad, was formed in 1927. And if you see, almost another 3 years, they're going to complete 100 years. In the 90 odd years of its existence, it's only when they feel threatened, when they feel that the state of Hyderabad's existence is being threatened, that they took up, some sort of military activity. And whatever we see, I have got a set of nearly 1,044 photographs taken by a legendary photographer from the Life magazine. He was deputed to India in September, October 1948 to cover the entire military invasion of Hyderabad state. The Razakars were no match for the Indian army. They were ragtag, with bamboos and, so having some sort of a pointed object on the bamboos and all. They were no match for the Indian army at all. And as I said earlier, after when the 5-day invasion took place between 13th of September and 17th of September, number of Razakars were caught and action was taken as per law, and many of them went to jail and many of them were killed. So what is the point in now reviving that, unfortunate part of Hyderabad history after 75 years? As I said earlier, the ladai ke baad bhusa yaad aaya.
Since we are talking about the timing, so let's also talk about the producer, because the producer Gudur Narayan Reddy is a BJP member. So of course it does raise.
Now he is a BJP member. Yeah. He's also incidentally a friend of mine from way back in the early 90s. He's a very nice person. But I don't know what are his compulsions to make the movie. But basically, as I understand, you yourself told that there was a revised trailer. There was an earlier old trailer which came somewhere in August or September of 23, coinciding with 75 years of the 75 years. No, the basic premise earlier, what we had in mind, popular concept was that the movie was being made in commemoration of 75 years of the Indian military invasion or police action or what I call it. Calling an invasion of a state by 40,000 troops, do you call it police action, you tell me? Is it justified? 40,000 troops from all sides of Hyderabad state, and you call it police action. And the justification given by the Indian government later on says that, had he called it a military invasion, the world would have intervened and it would it would be a civil war or a genocide, which is actually what happened actually. So as I said earlier, the point about that I was trying to make about the movie being released in September, I think the timing did not match, or maybe the entire movie has been revised, and because we see a lot of new footage in this thing.
Trailer, yes.
It's very, very clear that the movie has been made to influence the voters for the 2024 elections. Nothing beyond that. But I'm sure the people of Telangana are peace-loving people. They would love to have a very cordial relation between all the communities. Muslims are nearly about more than 12% of Telangana, nearly more than 60-70 lakhs of people in Telangana, and they would like to have a peaceful existence.
That's right. Also, sir, in recent times, we have seen that movies are used for propaganda, and you've already mentioned a few names like the Kerala story or the Kashmir files. And now movies do play a huge role in society where history is revived, or letting people get the information about various things. So what do you have to say about the change in narrative of the history because of cultural factors like, movies and other things?
I really laughed my heart out after seeing that 3 minutes of promo, because there is nothing even remotely related to reality. The Razakars never forced anybody to convert. May have been an isolated incident where they would have probably said that Islam is more, superior to the other religions and all. Never in the history of India. See, for example, let me just make a 30-second digression and say between 1206 AD and 1858, or say 1947, uninterrupted about 650 or 700 years of Muslim rule in India. They were never in a majority, and they never tried to convert people. Had they tried to see if the uninterrupted 650 odd years of their rule, if they tried to convert people, Muslims would have been 80% and Hindus would have been 50% or 20%. That is not the case. Islam spread through the teachings of the Sufis and all that peacefully. And the rulers of India from Qutbuddin Aibak to the, say, till the 1940s, where you have princely states like Hyderabad and other places where you have a large population of Muslims, they always realized that they were living in a country where they were in a minority. They were in a minority. Even Akbar or Qutbuddin Aibak or Muhammad bin Tughlaq or the other great Muslim rulers of India, including Aurangzeb, they always realized that they were in a minority, they were never in a majority, and they are always secular. Otherwise, they could not have lasted for that long. And even for that matter, the Nizams of Hyderabad who ruled between 1724 and 1948, 224 years. You don't have any uprising in that 224 years. Out of the 40 odd prime ministers between 1724 and 1948, you have more than 20 non-Muslim prime ministers. The village administration was in the hands of the Hindus. Their traders, very prominent positions were given to the Hindus. So there was no reason for the non-Muslims to, be unhappy in Hyderabad.
Right, so. As a historian, do you think now that movies that claim to be based on true stories are actually showing a partial truth, at least, if not the whole truth? Let's talk about it.
This has been distorted. The movie, by the 3-minute promo or trailer or what you may call it, we can easily make out what would be the content. It's basically out to polarize, and it's basically, you can at best call it a propaganda movie. A propaganda movie to influence the voters of non-Muslim voters of Telangana to vote for the BJP. As simple as that.
So, sir, would there be any message for the voters that because most of the voters would not know about the history, like the history that you shared with us right now?
No, I would say that you vote with your conscience and you vote for irrespective of the party, you vote for the best candidate who would work for you in future. He would not disappear after just winning the election. He would probably show his face again after 5 years. So vote with a clear conscience. Also vote for the best candidate, any party. It may be BJP or any other party. If he is the best candidate, definitely vote for them, irrespective of party affiliations.
And what about the people who just go to enjoy movie? They might not think it that, oh, this is to influence, but they're just there because they think that movies are for entertainment. Any messages for them?
This is definitely this movie cannot be in any way termed as entertainment. This is basically a propaganda movie with very provocative dialogues and provocative you show Qasim Razvi, the leader of the Razakars, running around with a sword and stabbing people and then converting people. I don't say that one or two stray incidents may have happened, and this was, as I said, I mentioned about in my when I was speaking to you just a few minutes back, that there is something called the white paper on Hyderabad. 2 white papers were released. One was released in August 1948 and one was released in 1972. The 1972 one gives out the entire number of regiments that participated in the Indian armed invasion, number of officers, including the lieutenant generals, major generals, brigadiers, colonels, and whatnot. All the officers and number of staff. That is how
Indian Army.
No, it's a complete book. If you want, I can show it to you. I have all that. One almara full of material pertaining this. Some of them original, not available with anybody else, and 1044 photographs. So what we are trying to say is, there have been people who have written seriously on this particular thing. Like, recently there was a book called Destruction of Hyderabad by E.G. Noorani. Then there's a book by Lucille Benichow, an Australian author, political developments in Hyderabad state between 1938 and 1948. Then there's an integration of Hyderabad state by Uma Joseph. Then there's a white paper on Hyderabad which was published in 1972, as I mentioned earlier, which shows, the entire columns and the entire officers and all that. And so many other books which have come. There is a Sayyid Ali Hashmi's book, 1948, An Avoidable Invasion. And then I was the one who actually discovered this Pandit Sundarlal report and brought it to light. Which gives out, we cannot the government of India is not ready to accept that 40,000 people were killed by the Indian army when they invaded Hyderabad. That itself is there's a Sunil Purushottam's book has come out recently. It says the India's first major massacre after 1947. So how do we justify that? And this movie is out and out propaganda, out and out. I mean, if I was associated with an NGO, I would say go to court and get it banned. As simple as that. Because the purpose is to polarize. So there is no place for such movie in sane society. As simple as that. When the purpose is to see, as I said earlier, these events happened over 75 years ago. Nobody has documented it. Most of the things are based on oral folklore or some stray incidents from someone. This has been blown out of proportion. And 3 minutes which I've seen, I'm sure I'm going to see the movie in the first week of March somewhere, and I'm sure I'm going to come out disappointed from the theater.
Also, so for people who are really interested to know the history, what would you say how they should find out about it? What would be some of your few tips that they can do, because some materials they might not get access to as you might have it.
There's a lot of material on the internet. There's a lot of material on the internet. There's the research done by Shefali Jha, Taylor Sherman, Eric Beverly, Sunil Purushottam, Dr. A.G. Nurani, Uma Joseph. Many of them have done this thing on the
written about it.
Subject.
And it's been research papers and books that's been. So people
not
should
only research papers, they're full-fledged books.
Yeah,
full-fledged books with illustrations, maps.
Yeah. So that would be a better
the unfortunate part is that Government of India, to justify the invasion of Hyderabad state, has demonized the Razakars, which is not correct. Only it will be for future research, like sincere scholars, like as I mentioned the name of Dr. Shefali Jha, Ayub Khan from Toronto, then you have Uma Joseph, you have A.G. Nurani, Taylor C. Sherman, Eric Beverly. I'm in touch with most of them. They have written on this subject, and even Lucille Benichoy, Orient Longman, published this way back in the mid-90s. Nobody had access to, ma'am, but for me, nobody had access to any pictures of the Indian Army invading Hyderabad state. It was in the mid-90s that I first gave pictures to the Orient Longman, which published photographs of the Indian Army invading Hyderabad. Of course, now we have certain, small bits of documentary moving images from British Pathé on the YouTube, showing the columns of the Indian Army entering Hyderabad. But actually, what happened, nobody knows, because they're not ready to accept that they also killed 40,000 people. And I'm not just trying to justify the actions of the Razakars. As I said earlier, a lot of them were killed in the military invasion, and also a lot of the main people were punished. So what is the point in taking the issue after 75 years?
That's right.
See, compare it with Kerala story, there is no comparison, ma'am. Pandits of Kashmir who were moved out were just only maybe 20-30 years ago. Kerala story is fresh, recent this thing. And it has been proved that it is a propaganda movie, because they have mentioned some 5,000 girls being converted to Islam and love jihad and God knows what. Whereas only the documented record is 3 or 5 girls who have gone to IS or whatever. Similar is the case with this movie also. It's basically, you can, say, not take it seriously. Say this is just a propaganda movie, as simple as that.
Yes, sir. Thank you so
much. And I would like to convey my hello to Gudu Narayan Reddy. He may not remember me, but I have known him for more than 30 years now.
We hope he watches this as well. Thank you so much, sir, for shedding light on the history of what happened in Hyderabad.